r/Nosleep. Posted by u/archives-h. I work for a company that studies cursed places. Workers must follow specific rules to survive. Part 3. Entry 3, Facsimile. Today's a day off from a mission. According to Watchtower protocol, every few missions or so, the team will be given a free day. So today, we didn't have any life-threatening situations. Actually, maybe, we did. Just me and Canopy though. I think the two of us are in big danger. I'll explain that in a moment. In the morning, we traveled to a nearby airport to pick up Grayson Stone, our fifth person in the team. He was tired, having flown from across the world, and so we didn't see much of him today. He had returned from teaching his various disciples and returned with information about myths and legends, as well as gifts for the team. Being an off day, the team set off to disappear and have some recreational time. Quint, our doctor, disappeared with Cassie, taking our one working van, we have two, and set off to the city nearby. I was just about to leave with them when Canopy called me over the intercom to get to the lighthouse basement. So off I went, walking across a small stretch of beach to our lighthouse. It wasn't a working lighthouse, and it had been long abandoned. The lighthouse was supposed to work, as a port was supposed to be built there to support the growing city near it. But, the owners were revealed to be scam artists, and the project was closed. The lighthouse was the only thing that was finished. When the team of Watchtower 7C first moved into our little house near the lighthouse, we all took an interest in it, especially Cassie and Grayson. Of course, I wasn't there at the time, but Quint told me the story of how the two of them fixed it up and made it a wonderful addition to our home over dinner, once. In the lighthouse, we kept our files. Files upon files of missions, data, and photographs. What we didn't know, however, is that there was a secret basement to the lighthouse. This, apparently, used to be someone's home, as Quint said that clothes and a bed were found, as well as wrappers of food. We couldn't find out who, but we all agreed it was probably a criminal on the run, or a homeless person. I soon found myself in the basement, where Canopy awaited. Bookshelves of files and data were in it, and in a corner was a computer and some chairs, where Canopy was sitting in one. He had some sort of digitized case file up showing on the screen. I figured he'd be showing me a file. His job, after all, was digitizing the files and keeping things in order. "What's up?" I greeted, extending a hand. I fumbled, suddenly realizing my hand was stuck in the folds of my blue hoodie. Canopy laughed, but then became still, returning to seriousness. "I have something to show you." "What?" "Take a seat," Canopy suggested. "This might be long." I did. "So, what's that on the screen?" "So, we've encountered those mannequins, right?" "Right. And I've told you about some stories involving mannequins where the Watchtower investigated." "Yeah, so?" I replied, confused. "Well," Canopy began, "I'd like to show you something strange." "What?" "Have you heard of the mannequin disappearances?" "No," I responded. "What are they?" "You wouldn't know. This has been kept quiet for a reason, but I'll tell you." And so, he did. And what he told me sent chills up my spine. The mannequin disappearances started a decade or two ago, in a small town called New Varela, which was up in some obscure mountain. Over the course of a week in early June, mannequins from a store mysteriously vanished, until none remained. Of course, people thought this was some silly prank, but soon, strange things began to happen. People started to complain that they were seeing figures in the forest surrounding the town, figures that, some say, were mannequins. But nobody truly got a good look at whatever was in the forest. Next, people began to have these dreams, where they were stuck in a coffin. Sometimes, the coffin's lid would be open, at other times, not. But the peoples whose dream coffins were open reported seeing figures, pale, naked people around them, always in the corner of their eyes. They described them as solid, yet not living, like plastic. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? After that, nothing happened in the town of New Varela. But it wasn't over. In the nearby town of Fort Deluge, something had happened. A man had stopped reporting to work for a few days, and the company he worked for contacted the police to check up on him. However, they found the door of his house open just a crack, so small, that it was almost invisible to the naked eye. But still, it was open, and the police began to suspect something was amiss. They cautiously entered and searched the house. And then they found what looked to be a corpse underneath the man's bed. I pointed out that on our last mission, something was underneath a child's bed. Canopy agreed it was eerie. The police called for backup, But then they soon realized that it wasn't a corpse on there, rather, a mannequin with some clothes and a wig. But the detail that chilled me the most was that when they examined the mannequin, they found that it had been stabbed 17 times, with the knife still embedded in its stomach. Initially, they thought it was some sort of sick prank, and I, personally, would have thought the same. Hell, I would have just assumed the man wanted to quit his job dramatically. Just a week later, a local fisherman saw a body floating in the water, and the authorities were soon on the scene. There, they found a corpse that had been stabbed 17 times. They couldn't identify the body, but not because it had been rotting in a lake for a week, but because its fingerprints were gone, replaced by smooth skin. The face of the corpse was smooth, not cut off, but just simply gone. There was no trace of hair on the body, leaving the head bald and shiny. There was no blood either, instead, this strange goo that appeared to be holding the corpse together. They would have thought it was a prank except for the fact that a tag that belonged to the company the man was in a pocket, unused, and clean. The police, Canopy explained, kept it all quiet as to not cause suspicion. I thought it was over, and was about to ask him a question when he continued. Apparently, that was only the first of strange events. States away, somewhere in Texas, the exact same thing happened, except this time, to a couple camping out in the forest. Mannequins resembling the two of them were found cut up and strewn around a campsite. And a week after that, their limbs were found just outside town. By then, however, DNA testing was in place, and based on the skin of the mannequin-like limbs, it was established that these indeed were the remains of the couple that had gone missing in the woods. Why would anyone do this? I exclaimed, horrified at what Canopy had explained. Just why? There's more, he said, scrolling and clicking a file he had bookmarked. He then proceeded to tell me that over the 2 decades that had passed, 1,238 events similar to it had happened all over the globe. The reason nobody knew any of this was the real details, such as the unidentifiable substance keeping a corpse together, and the mannequins resembling their actual deaths, were never released to the public in an effort to try to keep everyone calm. Further, the murders were happening countries far apart, and only recently had the Watchtower noticed a connection. And that's it, Canopy finished. Before I could say anything, let alone think, we both heard our company phones buzz. We both checked it, and it told us motion was detected outside the house. Cassie and Quint were probably back, or so we thought. But as we neared the house, we realized they weren't. The van wasn't at its usual place, and we realized they wouldn't be back after just an hour in the city. We both knew Cassie would be spending lots of time trying to get a date and somehow failing, and Quint would definitely be losing track of time at the library, where he volunteered. Look! I yelled, pointed at a small package neatly placed on our welcome doormat. It was a light cardboard box with our names written in messy handwriting. Whoever had written it had written Canopy's last name wrong, spelling hydrangea instead of hydrangea. Canopy inspected the box, while I made sure the door was locked. I opened the door with my key and the two of us entered. Inside, we checked the camera feed. We both noticed that when we were inside the lighthouse, the camera feed had mysteriously turned off, only turning on just as we got to the front porch. I think we should open the box, Canopy suggested. It should be safe. Let's do it. But then, we both noticed the sound of my personal laptop boot up. I had powered it off and left it in our TV room yesterday, and there was no reason it should be booting up on its own. We both ran over to the TV room, where we saw my laptop's screen active. It was showing us a website, one that I had never seen before. The website was loading, a small circle chasing itself. I tried to close it or at least, switch to a different tab. I frowned. It didn't work. The screen was stuck on loading. Canopy, meanwhile, set about finding a box cutter to open the package. When he got back, the screen had finishing loading. The first thing we saw were dates and times, with blank rectangles of space beneath them. Then, the site finished sort of. Shook, like it was alive, and then these pictures started loading. It was a big dinner table, with 5 people sitting around it. The other pictures showed the same table, just the people in different positions. In every picture, the people were all facing away from the camera. "Oh my God!" Canopy exclaimed, shock in his voice. "What is it?" And then I noticed it too. The skin was too shiny, reflected the light from the ceiling. I realized that they weren't people at all, but mannequins. And I knew what the dinner table meant, and suddenly everything came crashing down, all at once. I ran to our house's dinner table. They were exactly the same. The mannequins, the 5 of them were supposed to be the team. Even the clothes they were wearing were ours. I noticed that the one that was supposed to be me was wearing a dark green shirt I thought I had lost. But what was worse, was the contents of the box we had found. Inside, we found pictures of us. Pictures that we never could have taken, impossible pictures that couldn't have been taken. There was one of me and Canopy in the lighthouse basement, and the timestamp told us it was mere minutes ago, when we were just there. Another, was a photo of us looking at the pictures we were looking at now. Another, was of Cassie and Quinn in the van. Canopy yelped when he saw the last picture. It was a picture of him and a girl, but the timestamp was dated the exact moment he found it. That's my twin sister," he exclaimed, scared. "Wah. Text Cassie and Quinn to see if anything happened to them." I did so, and they told me what they were up to. Cassie was in a bar trying to get the attention of some girl, and Quinn was flirting with a guy he had struck up a conversation with in the library. "Are they safe?" Canopy questioned, saying the words faster than I had ever heard him speak. "Yes, what about?" He shushed me as his call was picked up. "Artemia," he called. "It's me, Canopy Apwas. What do you mean?" "Hold on, I'm putting you on speaker." Who am I talking to?" A voice from the other end spoke, a woman's. "Canopy's sister, Artemia. I'm Rainy, Canopy's making sure you're alright." "That can't be." Artemia protested. "He's been in my house for the past hour. He stopped by on his day off to catch up on our jobs." "No, I've been in the Watchtower 7C house the entire day," Canopy revealed. "I don't know who's with you, Artemia, but it isn't me." "And how do I know you're the real Canopy?" "Look, what's the shirt he's wearing, the other me?" "A sweater. With a dinosaur." "Wait, didn't you lose this one when we were in college?" "Exactly," Canopy informed. "You accidentally threw it in the paper shredder and started a fire." "So you are Canopy? Tell me something else." When we were kids, you ran away from home and somehow made it 3 states away." "Okay, good. Now, who the hell is sitting in my living room, waiting for me?" Artemia questioned. I don't know, but get out of there now," Canopy shrieked. I then saw something out the corner of my eye. I looked through a window facing the forest behind our house. "Canopy," I tugged, "look." "Wah." He turned to see what I saw. In the forest, from our beach house separating the woods from the sea, we saw 2 people staring at us through a window they could not have possibly seen through. The clothes they were wearing had holes all over them, like the rags holding a scarecrow together. They were wearing these horrible masks so strange they chilled me to my core. They weren't decorated, in fact, the opposite. These were oval slabs of dark, brown stone with 2 holes carved to resemble eyes, 2 smaller ones for a nose, and this ugly, stretched smile that was carved. But I think, the scariest detail of all was the fact that behind these holes, were nothing. Just a sea of endless black. We watched them tilt their heads in unison, then turn around, revealing that on the backs of their heads, if it was the back of their heads, was a mask, exactly the same as on their front. We watched the 2 walked calmly into the woods until we couldn't see them anymore. "Canopy," the voice of Artemia said, "the other you, he's gone." The backyard door was open, and I saw him just walk into the woods. We just saw 2 people walk into the woods," Canopy told. What the hell just happened?" I murmured.